This universe an old enchantment guards. Its objects are carved cups of world delight, whose charmed wine is some deep soul's rapture drink. The all-wonderful has packed heaven with his dreams. He has made blank ancient space his marvel house. He spilled his spirit into matter's signs. His fires of grandeur burn in the great sun. He glides through heaven, shimmering in the moon. He is beauty caroling in the fields of sound. He chants the stanzas of the odes of wind. He is silence, watching in the stars at night. He wakes at dawn and calls from every bough, lies stunned in the stone, and dreams in flower and tree. Even in this labor and dolor of ignorance, on the hard, perilous ground of difficult earth, in spite of death and evil circumstance, a will to live persists, a joy to be. There is a joy in all that meets the sense, a joy in all experience of the soul, a joy in evil and a joy in good, a joy in virtue and a joy in sin. Indifferent to the threat of karmic law, joy dares to grow upon forbidden soil. Its sap runs through the plant and flowers of pain. It thrills with the drama of fate and tragic doom. It tears its food from sorrow and ecstasy. On danger and difficulty whets its strength. It wallows with the reptile and the worm, and lifts its head an equal of the stars. It shares the fairies' dance, dines with the gnome. It basks in the light and heat of many suns. The sun of beauty and the sun of power flatter and foster it with golden beams. It grows towards the Titan and the God. On earth it lingers, drinking its deep fill through the symbol of her pleasure and her pain, of the grapes of heaven and the flowers of the abyss, of the flame stabs and the torment craft of hell, and dim fragments of the glory of paradise. In the small paltry pleasures of man's life, in his petty passions and joys, it finds a taste in tears and torture of broken hearts, in the crown of gold and in the crown of thorns, in life's nectar of sweetness and its bitter wine. All being it explores for unknown bliss, sounds all experience for things new and strange. Last week we read these beautiful lines about the secret air of pure felicity that our spirits breathe, and that nothing could live if it were not for this secret air of the spirit. No? And now Savitri is developing that idea that everything in this universe has been built to house God's joy in things, in many separate things of so many different kinds, and to house God's joy in self, in individuality, in self-experience. Our souls were born, all these many, many individual souls, all of them are meant to house God's joy in self. You read, Dhanalakshmi.
This universe is an old enchanting verse. Its objects are called cups of worldly delight, whose charmed wine is some deep soul's rapture filled.
Shall we pause there? This universe, this material universe that we inhabit, keeps secret within itself an old enchantment, something magical. And all the objects in this universe are like cups, vessels to contain delight, the delight of manifestation of world. Beautifully carved cups, shaped, decorated. And the wine that is in these cups is also magical, charmed, a charmed drink. It is the drink that gives rapture, intense delight to some deep soul which is inhabiting this universe and enjoying it. Within all these things, everything is a container for that world delight. Suresh.
The all-wonderful has packed heaven with his dreams. He has made land, ancient, space his marble house. He spilled his faith into matter's signs. His fires of grandeur born in the great sun. He glides through heaven, shimmering in the moon.
Yes, let's pause there. So all this has been made by the all-wonderful, the great magician, the great mystery, so adorable and so skillful and wonderful. He has packed heaven, the higher levels of existence, with his dreams. No? And here in the material world, all that blank, empty, ancient space that has been there since the very beginning, he has made it into his house of marvels. All the wonderful things he has stored here, as if in a storeroom or a museum or a treasure house. And into all this he has spilled his own spirit into all these different signs and symbols of matter. That means that there is an ancient Sanskrit saying, that the fullness can pour itself out into more fullness, and it still remains full. I think when he uses this word spilled, it's as if it's something extra. He's still completely full, and he fills all this with his spirit. All these signs, indications of the forms of matter. So it's his fires that are symbols, indications of his grandeur, his greatness, that are burning in the great sun, which is the center of this solar system that our earth is a tiny part of. It's him himself, the all-wonderful, who is gliding, sailing through heaven in the form of the moon, shimmering with that gentle golden light. That's where we stopped, I think. Yes. Barbara.
He is beauty caroling in the fields of sound. He chants the stanzas of the odes of wind. He is silence in the stars at night. He wakes at dawn and calls from every bowl. Lies stunned in the stone, leaves in flower and tree.
Yes. So it's all this is the all-wonderful. When we hear sometimes such beautiful bird song, caroling in the fields of sound, or other things, music, anything that we hear that's beautiful. It is him. He's singing, caroling, singing in these realms, these fields of sound. He chants the stanzas of the odes of wind. One thing that makes sound is wind, the movement of air through trees, through spaces. And Sri Aurobindo says that's like a poem. An ode is a long poem on a serious subject which has very beautifully crafted verses. Each verse is like a beautiful creation in itself. So it is the Lord who is chanting the stanzas of the ode which the wind sings. He's also silence, that very special silence. If you can go out into a quiet place at night and look up and see the stars silently looking down on us. Of course, we don't know, there may be all kinds of explosions and things, but to us they seem so silent in the silence of the night. And every morning he wakes up at dawn and calls from every bough. A bough is a branch of a tree. In the morning, the dawn chorus, all the birds wake up and sing. And it is him who is lying in the stone, as if stunned, as if he's fallen on his head and lost consciousness. Stunned in the stone. There doesn't seem to be any consciousness. The consciousness is stunned, it's had a big bang on the head. And then when it wakes up a little bit, it begins to dream in the plants, in flower and tree. It's the Lord waking up to a dream consciousness. Patricia.
Even in this labor and dolor of ignorance, on the hard, perilous ground of difficult earth, in spite of death and evil circumstance, a will to live persists, a joy to be.
Yes. So even here on our earth, this small world which is in the grip of death and ignorance, even here, amidst all the hard work, the labor, and the pain and sorrow, dolor, that are caused by the ignorance, here on this hard, perilous ground, dangerous ground, there's a lot of danger in this earth. Even here, in spite of death, in spite of all the bad things that happen, evil circumstance, still the will to live persists. Almost everything that's alive wants to go on living, and that's because of the Lord's joy within us, that doesn't let us leave. There's a joy in simply existing. Bhavana.
There is a joy in all that heals the sin, a joy in all experience of the soul, a joy in evil and a joy in good, a joy in virtue and a joy in sin. Indifferent to the threat of harm love, joy dashed to go upon forbidden sorrow, its sap runs through the plant and flowers of pain.
Let's pause there. Some things, experiences that we experience through the senses may be painful, but here it says that there is a kind of joy in everything that meets the touch of our senses. Everything that we hear, taste, smell, see. Because this is a joy in all experience of the soul. The soul experiences all these touches of the senses, all these experiences of the body and the feelings, but it draws joy from all of them. So there's even a joy in evil, in doing evil and in experiencing evil. And in the same way, there's a joy in good. There's a joy in virtue, in living a good life, And there's a lot of joy, perhaps, of a special low kind, in sin. Joy doesn't care about this threat that if whatever you do, you will have to suffer the consequences. It ignores all that. It dares to grow even upon forbidden soil. Things that we are told are forbidden should not be done. The sap, the juice and the rasa, the taste, the savor of joy runs through even pain. The plant on which pain grows, the flowers of pain. There's a certain enjoyment and delight in all that. Ganga Lakshmi.
It thrills with the drama of fate and tragic doom. It tears its fruit from sorrow and ecstasy. On danger and difficult waits its strength. It wallows the reptile and the worm, and lifts its head unequal of the star. It shares the fairy dance, dance with the gnome. It basks in the light and heat of many suns, the sun of beauty and the sun of power. Flatter and foster it rich golden beams. It grows towards the Titan and the God.
Yes. So this it is always joy. No? So there's a kind of joy that thrills with the drama of fate, of having to face very terrifying, difficult circumstances. And tragic doom, even what seems to be a catastrophe. We can notice that we can enjoy a story that tells about such tragic things, no? If it's well written, if it is shown in a special way. No? But in fact, even the soul is enjoying those things even when they happen. Joy needs food to keep growing, no? And it tears its food, devours its food, both from sorrow and from ecstasy. And it grows stronger. To whet is what we do with a blade to make it sharper. We have a special stone, and we grind the metal on the stone to get a very sharp edge. So that's what he's suggesting here, that through danger and difficulty, the joy learns to be stronger and sharper, to have a sharper edge. Sometimes it wallows. Wallowing is rolling in the mud. It's what hippopotamuses do, and pigs. No? So he says, with the reptile that crawls along the earth, the worm that lives, that moves through the earth. Joy does that through all the lower levels of consciousness. No? But it also lifts up its head to equal the stars, the highest, most distant lights. It joins in the dance of the fairies, the sweet, pretty little, subtle beings, and enjoys eating with the gnome. Gnomes are also small, earthly beings, subtle beings. I don't know what they eat. Can't imagine that they eat anything very nice. And it likes to bask in the light and heat of many suns. Basking, it's like sunbathing. When reptiles, cold-blooded creatures, wake up in the morning, they need to lie in the sun, absorb the heat and the energy. So joy is like that. It's drawing heat and energy from many different kinds of suns. For example, the sun of beauty, the sun of power. These are big sources of light and energy. And those two suns, the sun of beauty and the sun of power, flatter and foster the joy. To flatter somebody is to make them feel good, make them feel happy, and foster it, to feed something, help it to grow with their golden beams. And that joy grows, that capacity for joy grows towards the superhuman, the Titan, and the God.
It's very good, this description. We grow towards the Titan and the God.
This is like Asura.
A Titan isn't always an Asura, it's somehow the size
But all these
and the
lines,
power. Yeah.
But all these lines, it describes more or less about the Asuras.
No, I don't think so. These are different forms, forms that we approve of or we disapprove of. All these many, many different forms of the all-pervading delight of the all-wonderful. No? The world delight, all the many different forms that delight takes, grows, nourishes itself on. Ton, you would read?
On earth it lingers, drinking its deep fill, true the symbol of her pleasure and her pain, of the grapes of heaven and the flowers of the abyss, of the flame stabs, of the torment craft of hell, the dim fragments of the glory of paradise.
Yes. So that joy lingers here on earth. You linger somewhere usually if you're enjoying yourself. No? Here it's drinking deeply. You're drinking your fill. You may drink a whole liter at a time if you're very thirsty. No? It's drinking on earth in our material world. It's drinking the juice of the grapes of heaven and the flowers of the abyss, of the deep, dark places. It's drinking all the pain, the flame stabs and the torment craft of hell. It's as if there are terrible lower realms which specialize in creating different forms of suffering, of pain, the torment craft of hell. And here also the joy can drink dim fragments, tiny little broken bits of the glory of paradise. The spirit of joy can experience all those things here on earth. And then other things also. Will you read, please?
In the small pleasure of man's life, thin is petty patience and joys its fine a taste in tears and totters of broken hearts, in the crown of gold and in the crown of thorn, in life's nectar of sweetness and its better wine.
Bitter wine.
Bitter wine.
Yes, bitter is like meti, it's something bitter. It's the opposite of sweetness. So here, in our lives, our human lives, that joy is enjoying. It's enjoying the small paltry pleasures, little trivial pleasures of man's life. In the things that we get passionate about, whether we get angry or upset or very, very intensely happy, they are still small things, petty passions and joys. That spirit of delight finds a taste. Each of those things has a different taste which it enjoys. The crown of gold, if the man becomes a king, a powerful ruler, and the crown of thorns. The crown of thorns is what Jesus had to wear. It's the symbol of his suffering. It enjoys life's nectar of sweetness. Nectar is the sweet juice of flowers, but it's also used for the drink that the gods drink, the amrita that keeps them immortal. So that sweetness, that nectar of sweetness, that is also here on earth, can be experienced here on earth, but also the bitter tasting wine, like eating neem leaves, bitter taste. Poultry. Poultry means not valuable. Small, petty. Joel, you'll read.
All being it explores for unknown bliss, sounds all experience for things new and strange. Life brings into earthly creatures' days a tongue of glory from a brighter sphere. It deepens in his musing and his heart. It leaps at the splendor of some perfect word. It exults in his high resolves and noble deeds. Wonders in his heralds, dares the abyss brink. It climbs in his climbings, wallows in his fall.
Yes. So it is the joy, no, or the spirit of joy. So it's exploring all existence, always looking for some new kind of bliss that it hasn't experienced yet, unknown bliss. It sounds all experience for things new and strange. You remember sounding? This is trying to find out how deep something is. So the joy is trying to see how deep can we go with this particular experience. How deep is it? Sounds all experience, always looking for new and strange things to enjoy.
If you repeat, the sound varies according to the depth.
Of course, that's true with radar, but sounding used to be done with a piece of lead or a stone on the end of a rope, and you would let it down, and then you would be able to feel when the rope goes slack, it's touched the bottom. So this is called sounding or plumbing. And the rope used to be marked with fathoms. So if something's fathomless, you can't find out how deep it is. It's unsoundable. Here it is a verb. Here it is a verb. It explores all being and it sounds all experience. With all experience, it tries to find out how deep it is. To sound means to find out the depth of something. So here when it says the earthly creature, that's us. Of course there are other earthly creatures, but here it means particularly, I think, the human being. So life brings into the days of this creature born on earth a touch of a tongue of glory into our days. A touch of glory that belongs to a higher level of existence, a higher universe, a higher sphere. It's like something licking us, touching us gently, something of that glory. But that touch deepens when the human creature begins to muse, to go deeply within himself and explore in his thoughts. His thoughts particularly about the meaning of things. And it deepens in his art. It seems that human beings seem to have been making art as far back as we can measure in history. Sometimes very, very powerful paintings, sculptures. Why do human beings do this? It's a kind of creative expression of something. That's our contact with a higher sphere. And that tongue of glory leaps with excitement, with appreciation at the splendor of some perfect word. When Sri Aurobindo gives us one beautiful line of poetry, we remember it, we delight in it. It's something thrilling. And when human beings set out to do great deeds, high resolves, when they decide to face some big challenge or to do something very noble, when they can't help it, that is that tongue of glory which is enjoying, exulting, feeling an intense joy in these great efforts. But it also wanders about with us when we are lost, when we are erring, wandering from place to place, making mistakes, not finding our way. And it even is ready to go with us to the very edge of the abyss, maybe even fall in. That tongue of glory climbs in the climbings, the higher aspirations and efforts of human beings, and also enjoys and delights in the fall back into the mud of the lower levels of existence. Sit Uday, who's sitting? Will you read, please? Yes.
Angel and demon traders his chamber share, possessors or competitors for life's part, to the enjoyer of the cosmic sense. His greatness and his littleness equal are, his magnanimity and meanness hues, cast on some neutral background of the gods. The artist's skill he admires who planned it all.
Yes. So this is the earthly creature. We share our private room, our inner space, with many brides, with many lovers and partners. No? Some of them may be angels, some of them may be demons. They who are possessing or competing for the heart of life. to that soul who is enjoying the scene of the universe. All this is equal. The greatness and the littleness, the generosity and nobility, magnanimity, and the meanness, the pettiness. These are like different colors that are cast on some neutral background of the cosmic powers. I don't know whether sometimes I lie on my bed in the evenings as the sun is fading, and I just look at the colors on my white walls. Subtle colors are there on that neutral background. It glows green and yellow and pink and violet. So it's like that, hues, colors that are as if projected, or we see them on this neutral background. So all these different moods and different tastes of enjoyment, they are like that, like different colors cast on some neutral background that is not pink or blue. It's nothing in particular. And the cosmic enjoyer admires the skill of the artist who has planned all this. Actually, his own skill. Who has planned it? He's done it all himself. He looks at it and he says, it is good, it's really great.
So the artist is the divine.
Yes, who else? Yeah. So we can say the earthly creature, it's the conscious being of the earthly creature, who enjoys, is the enjoyer of the cosmic scene. Sergei.
But not forever endures this danger game beyond the earth, but meant for deliberate earth. Wisdom and joy prepare their perfect crown through superhuman calls to thinking man.
Yes. So this danger game, this dangerous game of many, many different enjoyments, indulging in all of them without discrimination, this dangerous game does not last forever. Beyond the earth, beyond the material world, wisdom and joy are preparing their perfect crown for this earthly creature. It's meant, this perfect crown is meant for the earth once it is liberated, once it's set free from death and ignorance, once it has become pure. Beyond the earth, but meant for delivered earth, superhuman truth is calling to we thinking beings, we mental beings. Sarojini.
At last the soul turns to internal things. In every shrine it cries for the clasp of God. Then is there played the crowning mystery. Then is achieved the longed for miracle.
Yes, so that's where we'll stop today. This play of light and dark and shade and many, many different forms for the soul to experience and enjoy, at last the soul turns to eternal things. And then, in all these things, it sees all of them as a shrine, as a place where it can worship God. It calls, it aspires for the embrace of God, the clasp of God in all these signs. And then the crowning mystery, the most mysterious thing of all, gets played out. And that miracle which we are all longing for is achieved. The miracle of experiencing the clasp, the embrace of the divine in earthly things.
But joy, Shraddhavan, is related with inner joy, no? With knowledge and wisdom.
Here he's speaking about that to house God's joy in things, space gave wide room. To house God's joy in self, our souls were born. The source of this whole manifestation is delight. For the all-wonderful to enjoy creating all these things, and then to enjoy experiencing them all and admiring that artist who has made it all. So there's all different kinds and levels of enjoyment. Perhaps in this Sri Aurobindo is different from other spiritual philosophers who say that desire is the root of the world. He says not desire, delight, God's delight. Otherwise it couldn't exist if he were not enjoying it.
This universe an old enchantment guards. Its objects are carved cups of world delight, whose charmed wine is some deep soul's rapture drink. The all-wonderful has packed heaven with his dreams. He has made blank ancient space his marvel house. He spilled his spirit into matter's signs. His fires of grandeur burn in the great sun. He glides through heaven, shimmering in the moon. He is beauty, caroling in the fields of sound. He chants the stanzas of the odes of wind. He is silence, watching in the stars at night. He wakes at dawn and calls from every bough, lies stunned in the stone, and dreams in flower and tree. Even in this labour and dolour of ignorance, on the hard, perilous ground of difficult earth, in spite of death and evil circumstance, a will to live persists, a joy to be. There is a joy in all that meets the sense, a joy in all experience of the soul, a joy in evil and a joy in good, a joy in virtue and a joy in sin. Indifferent to the threat of karmic law, joy dares to grow upon forbidden soil. Its sap runs through the plant and flowers of pain. It thrills with the drama of fate and tragic doom. It tears its food from sorrow and ecstasy. On danger and difficulty whets its strength. It wallows with the reptile and the worm, and lifts its head an equal of the stars. It shares the fairies' dance, dines with the gnome. It basks in the light and heat of many suns, the sun of beauty and the sun of power flatter and foster it with golden beams. It grows towards the Titan and the God. On earth it lingers, drinking its deep fill. Through the symbol of her pleasure and her pain, of the grapes of heaven and the flowers of the abyss, of the flame stabs and the torment craft of hell, and dim fragments of the glory of paradise. In the small paltry pleasures of man's life, in his petty passions and joys, it finds a taste in tears and torture of broken hearts, in the crown of gold and in the crown of thorns, in life's nectar of sweetness and its bitter wine. All being it explores for unknown bliss, sounds all experience for things new and strange. Life brings into the earthly creature's days a tongue of glory from a brighter sphere. It deepens in his musings and his art. It leaps at the splendor of some perfect word. It exults in his high resolves and noble deeds, wanders in his errors, dares the abyss's brink. It climbs in his climbings, wallows in his fall. Angel and demon brides his chamber share, possessors or competitors for life's heart. To the enjoyer of the cosmic scene, his greatness and his littleness equal are. His magnanimity and meanness, hues cast on some neutral background of the gods. The artist's skill he admires, who planned it all. But not forever endures this danger game. Beyond the earth, but meant for delivered earth, wisdom and joy prepare their perfect crown. Truth superhuman calls to thinking man. At last the soul turns to eternal things. In every shrine it cries for the clasp of God. Then is there played the crowning mystery. Then is achieved the longed-for miracle.